Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for coming back. Hopefully you got here because you're a subscriber. If not, if you got here because of the YouTube search, maybe you'll take a look at the other videos I have and subscribe. Trying to, as I've said in my other videos, trying to give back to the YouTube model railroad community for all the YouTube videos that I've watched in the past and the how-tos. Today, I purchased a new car off eBay. Got it for almost a song and a dance. But like all my rolling stock, I don't do heavy weathering, but I like to dirty the car up a little bit, give it a little bit of a wash to dull the paint, weather the trucks, and then I also do a few other things, change the wheel sets and things like that. So I thought I'd walk you through the process of what I do and see if there's something you can pick up on. And again, as always, throw a comment in there. Let me know if there's something you do differently that might help me out as I'm working on these. So let's switch over to the workbench and we'll take a look. So here's what I picked up off of eBay. As you know, I was model Wisconsin Central, and one of the box cars that they did was actually an anniversary special for Model Railroader, when Model Railroader hit 60 years. I happened to see this on eBay. I have a saved search on eBay for all things Wisconsin and HO scale. This popped up. Got it for 95 cents. I actually paid more in shipping to get it here, but even with shipping, it was still a great deal. And I'm not particular. I love the new models that are out there. Your Exact Rail and Trinity, or not Trinity, Tangent. All the high detailed models, but to be honest, this is what I grew up on. Blue box kits, as I'm sure you've heard, the Thurn. In this case, this is an old roundhouse. It doesn't have a date when it was manufactured, or if it does, I'm not sure. But this is a kit that's been around for years. For me, this is plenty. Once the trains are running, I really can't see a lot of the details anyway. Not that I'm blind, but trains are running. It's a box car. I know it's a box car. It works for me. And for 95 cents, I just added a car to my layout. I'm not going to complain about that. So some of the first things I do when I get a new car is I start by looking it up, see if I can find any reference pictures online. So I'll take you over to the computer real quick, see what we can find. Okay, so the first thing I do when I get a new car, sometimes I just throw a weathering coat on. Sometimes I like to do a little bit more research just to see how the cars looked when they were in use. And Wisconsin Central took pride in their boxcar rolling stock. As I said in previous videos, a lot of their customers were the paper industry, and they wanted to provide quality boxcars to their customers that protected their merchandise, that were easy to use, safe to use, being one of the key things. So their shops, especially like in Fond du Lac, rebuilt a lot of boxcars that they purchased secondhand. Various railroads getting rid of boxcars, and Wisconsin Central bought them up. And so you'll still see them out there today on a lot of trains, not only on Canadian National, their owner, but on other class ones as well. So the first thing I usually do is come to railroadpicturearchives.net, and I'll throw a link in the video description. But on the left here, there is, you can view photos, and you can go buy railroad. So I go buy railroad. Wisconsin Central happened to be a regional railroad. So I click regional, and down on the bottom here, Wisconsin Central. And on the right side here is a rolling stock roster. Now this is going to vary based on the railroad that you're modeling. Sometimes you get lucky and there's a lot of pictures, sometimes not so many. So I go by car number ranges because I know this particular box car is in the 26,000 range. So I click car ranges, scroll down. Now I'm going to cheat a little here because I did some research prior to doing the video, and I know that there are not any pictures of this particular boxcar. However, the 2600 series is the same type of boxcar. So I'm going to go ahead and pick on one of these here, and you can see there's a list of all the cars that have been photographed in this family of this car number series. I usually look for on the right side here, it's number of pictures, so how many times each car has been photographed. So I try and get one that has more than one shot. Unfortunately, with rolling stock, you're going to find that it's pretty limited. Usually, maybe one or two. As you can see, these are 1 and 2 shots only. So you click on one of them. Now, the first thing I do, especially since I'm trying to model the railroad in the mid to late 90s, I'm going to check the date when these were taken, the photo date. And this one in particular was taken in 2006. This one was taken in 2009. So those wouldn't necessarily be an accurate representation of what I'm looking to do with the car, weathering especially. Now that these box cars have been neglected for years and Wisconsin Central no longer owns them, they're probably going to show much more signs of wear. You know, this one's got quite a bit of rust on it. There's surprisingly no graffiti. So what I'm trying to find, which I had limited luck on before, was finding a car in the range, year range that I was hoping for. If you can't find the car you're looking for, sometimes you just gotta decide, well, I'm gonna wing it, take some modeler's license here, and kind of just weather away as I see fit. And I'm really kind of striking out here. There's not a lot of cars on here backdating all the way to the 90s, unfortunately. A lot in the 2007 range, 2009. Now, these pictures aren't necessarily useless. You can still see what the car looks like today, which will give you an idea. If the car is in good shape now, it's safe to assume that the cars have never been washed. So if the car is in good shape, mild weathering, well, then you wouldn't want to weather it up heavily for your era and your timeline. So I'm going to just check a few more here. We'll go back into the 400 range, see if there's anything. Okay, so then after I get the kit, the quick and dirty thing to do is just throw the weight on there. Sometimes you want to throw some Walther's glue onto the, in this case, to hold the weight down. I don't think this is going to need it. These are on pretty snug. But the one thing I do like to do is discard the plastic wheel sets that come with the kits. There's nothing necessarily wrong with them, but I like to add a little bit of weight, and the metal wheel sets will do that. The great thing about adding the weight in the wheel sets is it helps where the weight is needed most, and it lowers the center of gravity a little bit for the car, making it track better. So I discard these. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them. I'm holding on to them, got a big bin of them. But one little piece of advice is every once in a while, I belong, as I mentioned in a previous video, I am a subscriber to the HO Interchange group on the Yahoo groups, and I'll provide a link in the notes section. If you don't belong to it, it's free. It's just a place to buy and sell HO related equipment. And one of the things that I find from time to time is people unloading wheel sets for, maybe they switched over to a fine thread or a fine tread, or they just wanted to get rid of a group of them. So I've picked up bins of different wheel sets, and I happen to have some Intermountain 33-inch wheel sets which match what came off of there. So go ahead and I will take those, fit them in. Now, I know that the wheel sets coming off were 33 inches, so I don't need to size these to make sure that they'll fit. But if you're switching from a 33-inch wheel set to a 36-inch wheel set, you're going to want to take the underframe and make sure that they don't, you actually want to screw it down and make sure there's not clearance issues with the truck rotating, hitting any of the rib detail or the box. Okay, I'm kind of dealing with, we're hitting one of the coldest spots in Wisconsin winter so far. It's actually been below zero today, so the furnace is kicking in quite often. I'm trying to shoot this in between the furnace kicking in, which unfortunately is only about 10 feet behind the camera, and it really drowns the sound out. So back to the trucks. If you do change the wheel size from a 33-inch to a 36-inch wheel set. You will want to make sure that it does fit in the area for the truck. As I said, you don't want it to hit the coupler pocket, any of the rib detail. You want to test fit them. In this case, I happen to have some Intermountain 33-inch wheel sets, so I'm swapping out 33s for 33s. As I said, a great place to pick up metal wheel sets is the HO Interchange Group. I picked up both of these. I think all told I might have paid $20-some for all these packages, and I've got numerous wheel sets here, enough that when I pick up kits like this that have plastic wheel sets, I can slap on a new set of metal wheel sets, and I'm good to go for a minimal cost. So the first thing I like to do when I'm introducing a new car to the layout is just weather the trucks. Pretty simple, quick and dirty, pardon the pun, but I have just a mixture that I made up on my own here. It's a mixture of dirt, all polyscale paints. No real preferences, but I happen to have these on hand. So polyscale dirt and a little bit of weathered black, flat black of any kind, results in just a grimy grayish color. Once I've got the trucks painted, I'll come back with, I have some AIM weathering powders, and I will put some weathering powders, some little bit of rust powder on the springs, maybe on the undersides of the trucks. Not too heavy. Again, I'm modeling Wisconsin Central in the 90s. They took care of their rolling stock pretty well, so rust and stuff wasn't a huge deal, but road grime and dirt is pretty common. So let's zoom in here and I'll show you what I do with each truck. So like I said, I've got a Spiner, a shorter bristled brush. As you can see, it's actually broken, but it's one of my favorite brushes for doing this. So I'll actually take the truck, and this is another piece, it's just a piece of styrofoam that I made, cut out the center of it, and put your container of paint in there. Helps prevent tipping. I have a tendency to tip my paints while I'm working. Workbench may not look like it, but a little clumsy at times. So just get a little paint on the brush, and then holding it by the bolster right here in the center, if you spin the wheel, the actual wheel set, you can just put the brush in there and spin it around. I don't know if this is going to show up or not, but you can just spread the paint around the surface of the wheel itself, and you get a nice thin coat of paint inside the wheel set. So then I flip it around, repeat the process from this side, making sure to get the entire wheel set. Now the beauty of this is that you should be able to leave the wheel tread still metal, which is really what you're after, because that'll be shiny. Once I've got that done, then I'll come back and do the truck itself. I usually just do a wash across the top, get the axles inside here. Now this is a pretty thin paint. I do believe I put water in on this one, so it goes on very thin. It also doesn't stick real well, but that's okay. It's their trucks. You're not looking for a super thick coat. Really, it's just grime. And as I said, I'm going to come back and dry brush these a little bit later. Alright, so once I've got one side done, I turn her around and repeat the process. So the next step is kind of a fun one. What I like to do here is just get some paint on the brush again, and then hold the brush to the back of the wheel set, roll the wheel set along and paint the back of the wheel set, and come back and do the axle. Again, this doesn't need to be perfect. I don't find it needs to be perfect. It's rolling axle. Once it's underneath the car, you're really not going to see it, but I like to know it's done. And then once I get the entire axle, then I'll just do the back of this wheel. Unfortunately, the downside to this is that it will pick up sawdust off your workbench. And do the next one, holding it up to the back of the wheel. Then do the axle. trying to get this so the camera can get it. Just hold the paintbrush up to the back. And voila, happy painted truck. Thank you, Bob Ross. I don't normally paint the bolster. That's going to be directly under the car, so you're not going to see it. Once this is dry, I'll come back and dry brush it. Okay, so now it's time for weathering. I like to do the preliminary coats. The first thing I do when I weather my cars is to put a base coat of white, very thin white, over everything. And this helps to dull the paint a little bit, take some of the factory shine off of the factory paint job. So like, I can't even say these look like surgeon tools, laying my tools out here. This is not an operating room by any means. But so the first thing I have here is some Reefer White, again in my spill-proof piece of styrofoam. And any white will do. Again, this is a polyscale color. I also go with sometimes a flat white, which really helps dull the shine on the car. So here, one of the things that I like to use, especially for measuring, these are old syringes, non-needle type, but for giving, as you can see here, infants Motrin. When I give the kids medicine, as I was using them, I realized, hey, these would be great for measuring paint. So it works really well. You can put it in, extract as much paint as you need, put it into the airbrush, and you've got an accurate measurement. And so what I've filled this one with is actually Windex. And I like to thin my paints with Windex because I find that the Windex helps cut the pigments in the paint a little bit better. When I was thinning with white water, I found I got too much of a splatter effect, and really ruins the finish. But with Windex, it doesn't do that. I get a nice even coat. So that's that. Here's my spray booth at the moment. It's actually just a box from an old printer, and as you can see, I've spray painted quite a bit in here. And then I, thanks to my wife's grandmother, she happened to have a Lazy Susan, which it just sits in here. But this works really well when you're doing cars because you can kind of get around to the different angles. It's just sitting on a piece of styrofoam, so it sits flat. But that really helps, and as you can see, it's quite painted up over time. I don at least one rubber glove in case I have to touch the model. Roll up the sleeves. I've mixed the paint in the airbrush. I put the Windex in first, put the paint in, stir it up. You probably should mix in a separate container, but I found this works okay. The other thing I have is an old piece of plastic. As you can see, it's an old Pike Stuff wall from one of their kits. And this thing has been sprayed over and over again. But I like to use this just before I take it to the model. Just do a quick spray, see how the bead or the mist is coming out, and also gives me an idea of where I need my where I want to position the plunger and the needle while I'm spraying. So I'm going to start the airbrush. We'll see how the sound is. So first thing, to start it, getting a pretty good mist. The other good thing about doing it on a piece of plastic like this is you can see is it spattering on you at all, or are you getting a nice even coat. In this case, I'm getting a nice even coat, so I'm pretty happy with that. So I'll just start, and I usually work from a distance away. Nice light coat. You don't want to go too heavy. The white is going to show up, especially on a dark model like this. Getting all angles, getting the roof, coming back. And this is where the Lazy Susan really comes in handy because you just keep rotating the model. The other thing you need to be watchful for is sharp edges and corners. So if I'm at the wrong angle, you're going to get a shadow effect or a negative effect where the paint isn't going to get in there like you like. And especially on a box car or a covered hopper that has ridges, you're going to want to come at an angle. Again, thin coats. And that way you know you're getting into the cuts and angles on it. So after I've done it a little bit, take the unit off, just give it a once over, see how it looks. Fortunately, this guy is a little bit spattered, but that'll be hidden a little bit once you get the coats of dirt and grime on it. Okay, so now that the white has had a chance to dry, I'm going to come back and do a coat of dirt. And it's just going to be a wash over most of the car, streaking up and down across the roof, walkways section, ladders, things like that. So this is just an application of, again, a 2-to-1 ratio of polyscale dirt and the Windex again. So again, testing out to see how it's coming out. Sometimes you'll have to clean the nozzle off, or the tip off, if it's not coming out real cleanly. This is coming out pretty good. So first thing I do is a little bit across the bottom. And you want to keep your strokes horizontal to the car, or vertical rather, not horizontal, because water runs down off the roof. And then I go a little bit heavier, like around the used areas, you know, anywhere where there's ladders, stirrups, and things of that nature. A lot of times on the end of cars, you'll get kicked up dirt from the trucks of other trailing cars, or leading cars rather. So sometimes you can just put vertical stripes right along where the wheel sets would be. Okay, so that's that. That's usually about all I do for my weathering. As I said, I don't like to go too heavy. Just give it a good coating. I usually shouldn't touch it after you just painted it, but we'll go ahead and do it. So you can see, it really dulls it up a little bit, puts some dirt on it, makes it look a little bit more road ready. Well, that's basic weathering, at least how I do it when I get a new car on the road. It's nothing special, but as I said, I like to just weather things up enough to make them look like they aren't fresh out of the box, straight from the factory anymore. The other beauty of, as I mentioned, I usually buy more inexpensive cars. The beauty of it is, you ruin one and you only pay 95 cents for it, you don't feel too bad. It's a lot harder to take weathering powders and airbrush to a $30 car. 95 cents, not a real loss. So, hope you enjoyed the video, hope it helped you, give you some confidence maybe to go ahead and tackle something like this. Again, I'm by no means an expert, I don't claim to be. This is just what I do, what works for me, makes the models look a little bit varied in variety. So, thanks again for watching, hope you can subscribe, hope to have more videos in the future.